This is the oral history interview of Ingrid Bryant, and the interview is being conducted on March 21st, 2015 by Aaron Montgomery at the interviewee's home in Oviedo, Florida. And the topics of this interview will include Oviedo history and Central Florida history. And also I just want to let you know that I'm going to be as quiet as I can, not to be rude or not to risk, but just to keep the audio clear, I guess, is the idea, and less noisy. So, do you have any questions before I start asking you questions?
Not really.
Okay. All right. So, where were you born?
I was born in Munich, Germany on February 21st, 1944, in the height of the Second World War. My mother married an American soldier in 1955 who brought my brother and my brother Norbert and myself and my mom to America. He was with the Air Force. He was stationed at Pine Castle Air Force Base, which is now the jetport that we have that was an Air Force base. And we went to school in Orlando, Cherokee Junior High School, my brother and I. I unfortunately never applied myself to learn English. It wasn't really offered in Germany in those days yet. And so I came here not speaking English. My grandmother told me that if I didn't like America, that I have to give it a year, but she'll send me a plane ticket, not plane ticket, she hated planes, a boat ticket to come back to Germany. Well, I arrived in America, stepped on American soil on January 3rd, 1958. So I said, well, Grandma's going to get me back home. I don't really need to stay here because the children can be quite not so understanding about anything that's different than what they're used to. So I was being made fun of very badly, and it hurt my feelings because I was always one that wanted to fit in. That didn't happen in Orlando, and they really didn't know what to do with me because there were no ESOL lessons. So here's my year. We get a telegram December 15th that my grandmother had passed. So there went my chance of ever getting back to Germany. So I said, well, Ingrid, got to make the best of a bad situation. And my mom, in the meantime, knowing my difficulties, she found this place called Oviedo. Now, mind you, and she was told they had a good school there. Mind you, I come from Munich, Germany, which at that point in 1958 had a population of 1 million people. So it was already culture shock coming to Orlando because it was quite small, and of course no circus, no opera, no nothing like that. But we already had that because the American Marshall Plan that was in place after the war had helped rebuild Germany, and I am eternally grateful not only to my American soldiers but to the American people that sent care packages over there. And I had clothes, and the American soldiers, they shared their food with us, their rations, and I had my first juicy fruit gum and so forth when I was a little girl. But, so we come to Chuliota, which at that time was a development that just had started up. It was low-income housing, more or less, but it was, there were nice houses, and my mom found one that she said, well, we'll move here, then you can go to school in Oviedo. Went to Oviedo High School, and it was completely like night and day. They accepted me, and my English teacher, she told me, when you graduate from Oviedo High School, you will be speaking English. I said, yeah, right. And my math teacher let me do my math, the way I worked my problems, the way I was taught in Germany. She said, as long as I work the problem, Mr. Shazo, then and I have the right answer, she'd accept that. So that worked. My history teacher, God bless him, he was also the coach of Oviedo High School. And he was the most patriotic man you would ever want to meet. And he instilled the love of America to me. I already knew America was special. However, the way he taught history. And in 1960 was the first year that we had Americanism versus communism. They brought in a old TV like we used to have, black and white, and we had an hour of that a week. And I said, oh my goodness, you know, this, and then Sputnik and all of that happened right about that time. I managed to get a command of the English language, and yes, I graduated from Oviedo High School, and I learned English, and then I wanted to become an American citizen. So I went to Coach Meckler. They named the baseball field after him in Oviedo. I went to him. I said, Coach, I want to become a citizen. What do I do? He says, just do it. So in 1967, I became an American citizen. I was given a booklet to read that I read from cover to cover, memorized whatever I could. And when I got there to the George C. Young courthouse, which is now the Diocese of Orlando, in Orlando, they bought that building. I went there and I thought, oh boy, I am good to go. And I get to the examiner and she asked me 3 questions. Who is the first president? Who is the president now? And what are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? And I said, now what? She says, that's good. She says, good. I says, I know you can write English. I said, yeah, but is that all you're asking me when I memorize that whole book? She says, that's all I need you to do. You know what you're doing. And so I became an American citizen in September. And then I had gotten, no, let me backtrack. My brother Norbert that came to from Germany with me, he was a year younger than me. Let's see up there. And he kind of excelled because he went to the accelerated schools in Germany that we start at 4th grade, and they test us, and then we are separated to go to Oberrealschule, which he did, but of course his silly sister that was older than him didn't measure up. So he did not have the difficulty learning English like I did. He had one of those photographic minds. He could just, but when I came to Oviedo, there was another culture shock waiting for me. I had to repeat the 9th grade, which put me in the same grade as my brother, which at the time was a big help to me, but it was also not what I wanted. 1963, I graduated with my brother on June 10th. June 23rd, I married an Oviedo boy. July 16th, my brother Norbert was killed in a car accident. It was an accident. So he's buried at the Oviedo Cemetery. So that was very difficult till this day. I miss my brother. But from the marriage that I had with my first husband, I have 3 children, Christopher, Patricia, and Christina. I had to name her after her brother because he wanted a brother and she turned out to be a sister, so he got a sister named after him. Then I had a little difficulty with my first husband when I wanted to name our first child, which was Christopher, after my brother Norbert. He didn't want me to do that. So I didn't. Then I married my second husband after that marriage didn't make it, and his name was Norbert. He was German like me. I said, God, you have a sense of humor, don't you? I was 35 years old. I end up pregnant, and I have my little Norbert. He's now 35 years old. So that worked out to my favor too. From my 4 children, I now have 9 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren, which I'm a very blessed lady. My other thing that Oviedo has been holy ground to me. They've been good to me. When I wanted a job, they needed a customer service rep for the city of Oviedo. This was in 1986. At that time, they hired me for the water department to collect the monies and be accounts receivable, so to speak. It's good at math. And so I went to work, and my boss interviewed me, A.M. Jones. They named a water plant after him. And he says, Ingrid, why would you want to work in Oviedo? You're never going to make any money here. I said, because I want to give back. I said, you're going to pay me a living? I said, so I want to give back. Oviedo taught me English. Oviedo took me in and made me feel very special. So he hired me. And I retired there in 2004. At that point, all along, when we came from Germany, there was never a Catholic church in Oviedo. And my mom, she wrote the Vatican in the early 60s, and they gave us a priest to come out and say Mass in Chuliota at the little sportsman's club, it was called, which is now the Girl Scout camp in Chuliota. So she managed to do that. When they decided, and the developer of Chuliota gave us 7 acres so we could build a church and a school. And that was back in the early 60s. So the Diocese of St. Augustine, which we were under at that point, the Orlando Diocese wasn't established till 1968, Bishop Hurley decided to build St. Joseph's in Union Park first, and he said we'd be next. Well, that didn't happen. So when we came to Diocese of Orlando, I decided to go on a writing campaign. I like to write letters. And I would ask the bishops, can we have a Catholic church in Oviedo? And I'd get letters back saying, they couldn't say we didn't have any property, because we did. Chuliota, Oviedo, to me is about the same. And so they told me we have no priests. So okay, I bought off on that. So 1996 comes along, and my mom passes away. And she's 71, and on her deathbed she said to me, Ingrid, you still don't have that Catholic church. I said, Mom, I've been trying. She said, try harder. About the same time, this doctor comes into my office, moved into Oviedo. No, actually he came earlier. Let me backtrack. He came in earlier, and I noticed his name was Carlos Velez Munich. I said, Munich? Dear Lord, is this another sign, just like my little Norbert that I managed to that came that I wanted? So 1996, I had this lady, Anna Marcantoni. She used to help me file at the city because I was busy collecting money, making sure the right accounts were hit in the systems and so forth and so on. And so she would come in and she'd file my applications for me, and she says, Ingrid, Spanish community wants a Catholic church in Oviedo too. I said, they do? She says, yeah, we formed a group called Grupo Shalom. I said, well, get me in touch with whoever's in charge of that. I said, I need to talk to them. I said, I've been trying forever to get this church, and my mom said I better work harder. So I got to meet Dr. Velez, and they had a meeting. And he got us an appointment with Father Walsh in St. Margaret Mary in Winter Park. He got us an appointment with, you're not going to believe what bishop that was, Bishop Norbert Dorsey. So that is what started the Getting Most Precious Blood Catholic Church. So there was a standing joke in the city hall. If Ingrid ever gets her church, she can address the property. So I just came back from Barbados with my aunt, and my friend called me. She says, Ingrid, you have to, Laura Feldman, and she's Jewish, mind you, I'm Catholic. She says, Ingrid, you have to come down here. The diocese wants an address for this property, and I can't move until you come and do it. So I addressed the property, 113 Lockwood Boulevard. And so then we had our first Mass on the 24th of April, 2005, which we're now having our anniversary for a 10-year anniversary. Unbelievable, incredible what this town has meant to me, along with everything goes along with it. So I consider myself blessed. Now, my passion was getting the church, which I succeeded. My other passion is getting a museum in Oviedo. I love the Historical Society, and I've always been involved in history, because in Germany, history has always been right to the forefront. I mean, we try not to let history repeat itself over there, but it did with 2 world wars. But again, so I've been on a kind of a mission, sort of, wanting this museum. And when Mrs. Claire Evans made a bequest of an acre property on Oviedo Street for the Historical Society to have, because I felt we were the little red-headed stepchild children, because we never had a place to meet. So we would go from this church to that church to here, there, and yonder, and so she made that bequest. Well, unfortunately, she passed away, and that was kind of passed over by the city buying the old post office building that's on Geneva Drive to make a senior center. So I was just a little bit taken aback by that, because when I questioned her one time, I said, well, we do need some place. And she says, are you doubting my word? I told you we'll get an acre of property. But that didn't come to fruition, evidently, because it's an off trade now for the post office, which her family sold to the city for $400,000. I was upset with that, because I've been here forever. I knew when it was built. And I'm just, I don't understand this at all, but evidently the city and the powers that be in the Historical Society decided to make that happen. Now, it hasn't evolved to what it's supposed to be, because I do believe they have now put the new downtown of Oviedo, south of Oviedo, on the forefront, which I personally have to agree to disagree with the council and with the mayor for doing that. Reason being, there was only 2 defined downtowns in Seminole County. One is Sanford, one was Oviedo. So I know the road is going to be cut through, but I thought that maybe they would do what Sanford did and embellish what they had and work with that, rather than spend all this money with a new downtown that I don't understand. Let's put it that way. I do not understand the logic behind this. I do know that we put down water lines in 1968. I do know the infrastructure of Oviedo, to me, is of the utmost importance. And I'm worried about things maybe I shouldn't be, but I've worked for this city, and I love this city with my whole heart. Always have, always will. These are 2 issues that I'm not comfortable with. I love the people, and when I was the customer service representative and Oviedo had this explosion of growth, I always told my people that came in and signed up for water, I need you to do me one favor, and that is to blend in. Oviedo is a wonderful place. You don't try to change Oviedo. Oviedo is fine. And I tell them, don't let the overalls fool you in Oviedo either. That is a standing joke that I've had forever. But again, all in all, big picture, as I try to look at in my whole life, is the big picture. It's a great place for families. It's a great place for everybody. It was a great place and still is for me. I'm totally in love with Oviedo, and I want everybody to love it as I do and do what's best for everything. But I guess when UCF came in, I was there. I lived south of Oviedo, and the Adamucci site was the site they built the university on. Had 3 buildings. It was something to behold. And that was in 1960. They didn't build it in 63, but they made it happen 1963, the year I graduated. So I have a daughter that graduated from UCF. I have a son-in-law that graduated from UCF. I have a daughter-in-law that graduated from UCF. And it goes on, and I am one happy girl. And the school has made me so proud because it was FTU, Florida Technical University, and now as it's, I do believe the second most populated school in the United States. So that's something to be proud of for them being right there by Oviedo. Oviedo is special. And hopefully and prayerfully, after my life is done, it'll continue to go on. And please remember always, blend into Oviedo. Don't try to change it, please.
What was your favorite part about growing up here in Oviedo? Did you have a favorite place to go when you were in high school, or?
Oh, we had a teen club. We had a teen club in Oviedo. Look at the turn. Just lift up the thing and turn it. Just put it back down. Just there you go. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
What was my favorite place in Oviedo was the teen club we created out in Chuliota. And I, as a non-citizen, became a president of that of that teen club. We had dances on Saturday night. And Oviedo had one thing that I can call to mind at that time. You have to understand, we were very small, and we had a swimming pool. And every Tuesday we would go down on Magnolia Avenue in Oviedo, and Tuesday night we would have a teen night there. And we'd dance and swim and do whatever kids do. Yes, that was it. And they did, however, close that swimming pool down, so it's not there anymore. I think it's a tennis court now. And we had one grocery store, the Country Quick. The one thing I would like for Oviedo to get again, that I know us old people would probably need, because you guys are so techie with your Facebook and all, and Miss Ingrid don't do Facebook because I'm from Germany, and I think to myself, my God, this is a double-edged sword. It's too much information and it can be used very badly. So the one thing that I would like to have Oviedo have again is a newspaper. Our newspapers are all gone, so it's hard and difficult for the older people to find out what's going on. Just like last weekend, the Taste of Oviedo. I mean, it was well represented, however, not advertised in the paper. I get the Orlando Sentinel, but we get bits and pieces, but I love the Seminole Chronicle. That gave information that was pertinent to our area, what we had going on here. And I feel with 35,000 plus people, please, somebody, do us another newspaper. Larry Neely had his newspaper back in the 60s, and it was called The Outlook, and then it became the Oviedo Voice. And I think the Oviedo Voice is in existence, but from what I understand when talking to the mayor, they're all struggling right now, even the Orlando Sentinel. So, and I've read that forever, but that's the one thing I would like for them to have. We're getting the hospital, which is a good thing. I am so happy. I've prayed about that, and things are evolving. And maybe the new downtown is thought by somebody, that might know better than I do, but I just thought the old was quaint and was what Oviedo was, more so than the apartment buildings that I see going up. I question that, why, and the Albertsons across the street, but I don't want to complain. It'll all work itself out, hopefully, prayerfully. So, but the museum, I still want a museum. I do. And maybe, hey, I got a Catholic church after 40 years of praying. It might happen. It just might happen. Maybe not in my lifetime, but other people's. You have any other questions that you have?
Is there anything else that you miss about Oviedo from your youth?
From my youth?
Yeah, anything?
Knowing everybody in town, knowing every car that went by my house, knowing that if it rained outside and the laundry was on my clothesline, somebody come in and put it in my house. We didn't have locked doors. We had so much going. Everybody, it was just a different life that right now, that's passing. But the only thing I would get mad at back then when somebody would take my laundry in from outside because it rained, my neighbor mostly, that she didn't fold it. I miss the closeness of the people, anymore. I still have lots of friends here because I had a position in the city where people knew me, and so I treasure my customers. I do, and if it would, I would have worked longer, but I was getting conflicts with trying to get this Catholic church, mixing church and state. That just didn't go over so well, especially when I'd ask people when they came to Oviedo. I said, what church do you go to? And they said, well, we go to Catholic church. And I would tell them, I said, well, we don't have one yet, but if you help me pray, we're going to get one soon. And I don't think that's something you should do. So I guess I'm not the politically correct person you want as a customer service person anymore, but these are things that, yeah. But I love Oviedo. In spite of everything, I love Oviedo. And love my police chief, too, because he helped me catch a criminal that burglarized this house. And we caught her. Like I said, I love Oviedo, period. And I want what's best for Oviedo. And I want it to go on and on and on and be the success it is. And who knows, someday it'll be as big as Munich, 1 million population, which would make me happy. Maybe not anybody else, but me. Because I've always been a city girl.
So why did you choose to stay in Oviedo your whole life?
Why did I choose? Why would I not? I go to Germany pretty much every year to see my relatives over there that I have, but Oviedo's my home, and I have everything I've built up is Oviedo. So yeah, I've stayed.
Is there anything else that you want to say or talk about before we end?
I'll just keep my Oviedo special as it's always been, and maybe if there's by some chance we could get a museum to where people in the future know that we were the celery capital of the world, and all the people, the backbone of the community that has already passed on, the people that I miss dearly, especially Claire Evans. Yeah, keep it going and build a museum, and life will be good.
All right, well, those are all the questions that I had for you. So,
thank you, dear.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really, really do appreciate you doing this. So
I appreciate doing this with you, and thank you for coming again.